rise again to glory then, soar into the sky. If you stop and see, then you just might believe. We're unstoppable, powerful, enough to beat the odds. If you love me, you will see the flames inside of me.
Is everybody ready? Thanks. Is everybody ready for this war to commence? Is everybody ready to be done with Eric's route? Is everybody ready to be something? Are you all ready to be heroes? We're about to be heroes. There we go. You're ready to be something? Yeah, we're ready to be something. 24. Let's go. Let's do this war. Let's finish Eric's route. Let's do this. Let's become heroes. The day of the siege had finally dawned. We had arrived at the Demon Lord's castle, and we were as ready as we could be. Many armies bearing different banners and colors watched over the grounds before the castle, ready to rush in and lay waste to the Demon Lord and the remainder of all his forces. All of us shared a common enemy, and upon his demise, would all finally know some sort of peace. Even during roll call of the major generals, the air became full of determination and pride.
Mirth, Avarice, Nadia, Fiorna, Aradum.
Each name called became a mark on history. This was the war to bring freedom or destruction to the demon world. If the rebellion didn't win this fight, then this war would never end, and if the rebellion won, then the world would become united in a hopefully peaceful rule. The hour before the battle was set to take place, my thoughts instantly ran back to our final meeting in Lilith Castle. I did it! Dan had pulled the leaders and us together, instructing us on how exactly to proceed.
Sarah, you will be joining Shadow and Sergeant in the front, taking care of the main army head-on. I expect that you will come out of it alive.
And I swear to God, if you don't, I will hurt you.
Yes, my lady.
Rabbit, Faye, you are in charge of range attacks and defense. We cannot allow any of those blasted imps getting to us from behind.
Yes, ma'am!
As Diana looked to me, I grew slightly fearful. I had to get into the Demon Lord's castle, but how exactly did Diana plan on getting me there?
You and your fiancé will take the side route straight to the castle.
Wait, what?
We've organized our army to have our strongest on the front lines and against the tree line, giving us a side route for you to make your way straight to the castle.
If anything trickles into the side route, you'll be able to handle it. However, there is something I must ask of you.
What is it?
Are you out of your mind?
Eric, please, let her speak.
If you are indeed attacked, you need to defend your fiancé the entire way there. Do not let him use his energy.
It's like he already knew.
Are you out of your mind?
There you go. Gotta wait for your cue, dude.
When you get to the castle, I will be fighting one-on-one with the Demon Lord. If something should happen to me, then I need you to take over. She is not ready to fight him, and you need to be at full strength to finish him off.
I will never be ready to fight him. I'm barely ready to fight off a fruit fly, I swear.
She'll be okay. She's got my magic with her.
Dude, I know how to make a thorn bush and how to fly. I can't... Take this, you son of a bitch! Yeah. I stared, listening and reaffirming the order. I couldn't lie. I was nervous. However, I was determined enough to see this through. I looked over at my fiancé with a confident smile. I got this! Don't worry about it! Despite the worried look in his eyes, he nodded and held my hand, trusting me and my decision to agree with Diana's command. Diana rolled her shoulders and looked at the map draped over the war table between us all. Her gaze pierced into a parchment as the aura around her body pulsated in anger.
I will fly ahead and meet the Demon Lord head-on. No matter what happens, I will not allow that monster to live.
Yeah, we're gonna do this. The pure determination and anger in her voice practically sent a shiver down my spine. She was set on seeing this through to the end, and I was sure that she was willing to even die if it meant taking the Demon Lord with her. The remaining incubi and their wives were asked to stay behind the army and guard the main base, where Rabbit and Faye were stationed. They needed as many eyes as possible in the back of the battle, so 4 couples were perfect to keep things in check. As they agreed, the meeting ended and the mental preparation had begun. The idea of the upcoming battle, it's that epic, scared me, sending waves of fear and worry up and down my body in response to the thought.
So, my warrior princess, are you ready?
Ready as we'll ever be. I want to say yes, but I'm scared. Wouldn't be. It's a war, dude. Erik gave me a comforting smile and gently leaned down and kissed my cheek. How tall is he? Wrapping his arms around me softly. Are you feeling serious right now?
I promise. I will protect you from anything that comes our way.
I listened to him speak before nodding and taking in a deep breath. Everything would be okay. Everything would be fine. It's just a war. Nothing to worry about, am I right? I had to believe in myself and get us to the castle when the time was right. Like a beacon, our forces became the banner of hope and the strength for the rebellion. At the sight of Diana, many shoulders bowed or stared in awe and inspiration. Maybe it was her presence, or maybe it was what she stood for. But as Diana stood at the cliffside of the mountain, the air became full of energy and power. At my fiancé, Rabbit Faye, and I stood behind her as Diana stood on the ledge of the cliffside, addressing the rebellion for their final battle. Her voice echoed through the field, booming and reverberating through the air like thunder. Wait, let me get Google Translate! Oh dear! You talk a lot. You done? Alright, good. What's she saying?
She said that she will help them gain their freedom, and she will stand with them as they fight this war.
Is that all?
Well, she also said that the castle will be bathed in blood, but I don't believe she means it literally.
You wanna bet? I nodded as I stared at the back of Diana's head. A part of me felt a little intimidated and jealous of the power she had. She really could make armies bow to her and obey her every whim. At the same time, I knew what she was doing, that she was doing the right thing for this world. Yep. Rabbit and Faye stepped forward. Sorry about that. And held their hands out towards the castle, focusing their energies and forcing the stone walls around it to crumble and dissolve down into the earth. Diana summoned her saber, letting it shine brilliantly as the purple taint over her skin began to twist and turn. Before my eyes, the taint on her back took shape, lifting off Diana's skin and morphed into a set of demonic wings. I could only stare. Jaw dropped as Diana lifted off the ground and began to fly over the legions, slowly gliding towards the castle.
To war! To battle!
Charge! At her final command, Diana's wings pulsed into the air, flapping gracefully as she swooped down and forward. She was charging and flying for the castle walls, saber bared and ready to spill blood. As the armies below began to bellow and march forward, Rabbit took hold of my shoulder and turned me away from the castle to face her.
Come, we must hurry.
You look good. You look great. No pants and everything. Great. Still snapping up fingers, I see. Understanding the need of urgency, I nodded and rushed forward with the rest of the incubi towards the slope down the mountainside.
Everything is in order. Sergeant Diana's guard are at the front lines, while Shadow is with his legion to the west.
Is our route clear?
We've done what we can to keep your way clear. We'll try to make sure the battle won't break through the path.
I nodded, feeling the need to rush, nip at my heels, pushing me forward. My fiancé seemed to agree, gripping my hand and walking at my pace alongside me. Walking? Really? However, as we finally arrived at the forest line, Faye and Rabbit stopped looking back at us. I'm losing my train of thought here.
Straight through here. The sound of the war will always be on your right, so do not get lost.
You'll be fine, though. Just follow the tree line.
In sync, my fiancé and I nodded in acknowledgement before turning to see the other brothers and their wives. So this is it!
Remember your surroundings and protect each other.
Yeah.
Be careful, alright? Make sure you stay safe.
Kick his dead body a couple times for me, alright?
Will do!
Right in the head.
Gotcha, Sam. Brothers for life.
We'll be right here rooting for you and watching your back, okay?
Alright, soccer mom Carrie.
We'll finish this and rush in as soon as we can, alright?
I will not see you in the end battle, but nice thought.
Make sure
We'll win this.
Bye.
We know we
Apparently you're not important enough to get your line out, so it's alright.
You can do this. We'll see you soon, okay?
I live for you, Twyla. I smiled despite the nerves running through my body. I held on to my fiancé's hand and gave it a hard squeeze before receiving one back in kind. We'll finish this and then we'll go home. The group nodded before I slowly turned and looked into the tree line, took a breath and rushed forward. Matching my speed, my love followed, weaving through the trees behind me and not to lose sight of me. The journey was surprisingly, dare I say, peaceful. The sound of war exploded beside us outside of the tree line, causing me to cover my ears a bit from the volume, but I shook my head and pressed forward, not wanting to become distracted. The goal was to get to the castle. I had to focus. As I rushed forward, I felt my instincts go aflutter, okay, causing me to stop and remember that I could fly. My incubi skidded to a halt beside me, looking to me in out of breath confusion. What?
Princess, what's wrong?
Dude, I can fly! I looked up at him, staring into his eyes and contemplating my plan. It took a lot of energy out of me, but it was faster than running. Plus, I would be holding him with me, adding onto the weight. I took a moment before mentally hitting the fuck it button. Yeah, fuck it. I quickly grabbed my incubi's hand and pulled him close, tightly wrapping an arm around him and shooting a hand down the ground. Fly! As my voice rang through the air, my feet suddenly were pushed up off the ground, pulling my incubus along with me. We're going for a walk, let's go. Causing him to wrap his arm around me in utter surprise and fear of falling.
Whoa!
Let's have some fun. Our bodies shot into the air above the trees. And what is going on behind me? Okay. Above the trees and let us see the battle. What the hell's going on behind me? Dear Lord. Okay. Bangs. My own personal war happening behind me. Above the trees and let us see the battle raging beside us. I stared in shock as the battle escalated between the two sides, slicing and ripping at each other for territory and ground. Hey, you wanna get the fuck out of there, dog? Hey, dog, you wanna get the fuck out of there? Thank you. Okay. Still, the thought of the castle ran through my mind, causing me to shake my head and fly ass forward, as and the incubus in my arms held me tighter. It was a little cute to think about him holding me like this for once as I guided us through the air. I knew that there. Okay, I gotta stop getting distracted. Which there's a beagle behind me distracting me. No more distractions. We're in a war. We're in a war. If you don't read right, you're gonna die. All right. I knew that there were imps still in the forest below. However, so I glared into the trees and pointed a hand out, forming a familiar green orb in my hand, and chugging it into the woods. I repeated the action over and over as we continued forward. Dude, that's literally the fuck it button right there. I could faintly hear the sounds of imps below becoming caught in my thorns, some even crying out from actually being impacted by one of my orbs and being cocooned by a thorny trap. My incubus, despite probably being surprised at my carnage, ignored the sounds below us and held me close to him, knowing that if he let go, he would fall. I wasn't focused on him at the moment. All I cared about was getting us to the castle. Erik, you know, you can walk, whatever. Just let him go. By the time we reached the end of the forest, there was a slew of dead bodies behind us, all entangled in a forest full of thorn bushes. I landed at the tree line, panting and feeling a wave of exhaustion running through my body. I panted for air, slowly focusing on calming down as my energy quickly depleted from its continued usage to keep me in the air. Okay. That was all I could do before my energy was expanded in a wave of exhaustion. Expended? And a wave of exhaustion rolled over my body. I began to fall forward, exhausted. My fiancé, however, quickly rushed forward and caught me in his arms.
Whoa!
Oh,
Princess,
swoon!
Are you okay?
I'm okay now that you're here. I looked up to see Erik staring down at me with a deeply concerned gaze. We were safe for the moment, which is in the middle of the battlefield, but no worries, let's have a moment, shall we? So I merely smiled up at him with a nod. I'm fine. I promise to protect you, like you protected me. When? Sorry. Erik let out a small laugh, kissing my forehead and hugging me to him.
You spoil me so much, my love.
Do I? What have I done for you?
Will you be alright?
For fuck's sake! I hugged him back, feeling the relief that we had that we had finally arrived at the castle, and we were about to rush inside. As we slowly pulled away, Erik lifted me up and helped me to my feet.
Will you be alright?
Yes, for the 5th time, I'll be alright. I nodded, shaking off the exhaustion from my mind. I was ready to end this. I looked up at the castle gates and felt a rush of determination run through me. Let's go finish this. With that, Erik and I rushed forward into the castle. The battle had begun. The final battle, sorry. Not just battle. Got a hiccup! Alright. Erik and I rushed into the castle and into the main hall, where we could hear Diana and the Demon Lord clashing swords.
I will tell you to
Dear God! Not prepared.
I will get you, I swear!
As we finally entered the space where the battle was happening, we stopped at the doorway, finding Diana slamming her saber over and over into the Demon Lord's sword, which was held over his head like a shield. From the look of it, the Demon Lord was severely wounded, and was trying to hold out against Diana's barrage of blows. Diana wasn't looking too well herself, but she seemed to have the upper hand. What was scary was that Diana's face was completely smeared with blood, intensifying the frightening look of rage and anger in her eyes. Every swing was reckless, powerfully thrown to eventually hack into the Demon Lord. To her displeasure, the Demon Lord was able to block each time. Erik and I slowly stepped in, watching as Diana continued to beat steel to steel in an angry rage, trying to find an opening and becoming more enraged with each block the Demon Lord pulled. Slowly, his body began to glow, pulsing with red energy.
Enough!
With a blast of red lightning, Diana was sent flying back, slamming against a pillar and falling to the ground with a thud. Diana! Not my baby! The Demon Lord seemed to ignore my shout as he stood and began to walk over towards Diana's fallen body. Diana tried to press up onto her hands, stumbling and buckling a bit before she glared up at the Demon Lord while he approached.
I should have waited until you came back, so I could have killed all of you in one fell swoop.
I don't think so, bruh. Diana's glare intensified as a large black and purple flame engulfed her body from the rage that ignited within her.
You bastard!
You bastard! Pouncing off the ground, Diana formed a new saber in her hand and flew at the Demon Lord, swinging it to slice his throat open. However, the Demon Lord parried, locking steel once more with her and leaning in with a hard glare of his own.
How does it feel to be the only one left alive in your family? Not even your unborn sister survived!
Oh no, the thing that's already been spoiled for me. Thanks! Diana snarled as she slammed her feet into the Demon Lord's chest, forcing him back and causing her to catch herself on her wings, remaining in the air. The voice that erupted from Diana's mouth sent shivers down my spine.
You don't even deserve the mercy of death!
Erik continued to place an arm in front of me, staying put and watching intently. Both of us were sure that Diana possibly had this, but we didn't want to get in the way of her rage if she was full out going berserk with this. The Demon Lord let out a laugh before pointing his hand at Diana, summoning a large bolt of red lightning to shoot out and slam to Diana. Luckily, Diana had placed her swords between them and blocked the lightning from hitting her skin. She was still slammed back into a pillar. She was slammed back into the pillar she hit before and held there against a stream of heavy red lightning.
You're losing your power, succubus! Just like your weak parry!
Sorry. With a tearful scream, Diana began to push back, shaking and gritting her teeth. The wounds in her body began to bleed profusely. Ooh, jeez. But she eventually sent a wave of purple flame-like energy into her sword, letting it climb up the lightning bolt into the Demon Lord's hand. Served. The Demon Lord quickly pulled his hand away, revealing a sizzling burn aura around his palm and fingers. Diana, weakened, fell to her knees, exhausted but not out yet. Her eyes still bore into her enemy, not ready to give up. I'm sorry, but he just looked a little like a ballerina. It's like, I will handle this. Step aside. I'm gonna twirl my way over to you with my tentacle porn army. I'm not gonna make another Tokyo Ghoul reference. You thought it was coming, but it ain't coming this time. I felt myself glare hard at the Demon Lord. He was a monster that needed to be stopped. Erik, feeling my anger, stepped forward and began to summon his ethereal tendrils behind his back and around his form.
It's time to step in.
Gracefully and fabulously. Twirl your way in there, you little ballerina. I watched as Erik rushed forward and planted his feet beside Diana, reeling his hands back and punching them forward. Yeah. As he did, a crown of tendrils shot up from the ground around his body and flew at the Demon Lord like a spray of arrows. Damn! The Demon Lord glared and sliced each attack out of the way, panting from exhaustion but not ready to surrender. As he sliced through the last one, he sneered at his second son, gritting his teeth.
You!
You! Erik smirked, licking his lips slightly.
Did you miss me, father?
Oh damn! As he finished his sentence, Erik formed another round of spikes behind him and shot them toward his father, glaring as he blocked and knocked away each one again with a sword. The demon lord let out a dark chuckle.
Like I would miss little insect traitors like you.
There we go, music back. The demon lord let out a howl before slamming his giant sword into the floor, causing the ground to quake and a large crack to cut through the marble and charge at Erik's position. Erik jumped to the air and landed beside the broken earth, sending out another volley of spikes. Luckily, one rammed to the demon lord's shoulder, causing him to shout in pain.
Losing your touch, aren't you?
Damn! Wait for it! Never mind. Thought I had to sneeze. The demon lord snapped before ripping the spike out of his body, letting the wound bleed openly before rushing at his son with his sword held high. However, Diana swooped in and slammed her saber into the path of the sword, forming a deadlock.
I'm not finished with
Dear
you!
God, that scared me. Who knew this game was full of jump scares? Dan and the demon lord pushed against each other, eventually jumping away from each other in aggravation. As Dana landed beside Erik, he stepped in and pointed his hand at the ground where his tendrils burrowed through the marble and jutted out like a spike trap. The demon lord was quick to react, rushing back before the spikes impaled him from below. And glared. This match had become an unfair fight for him, but in our case, it was needed to finish him off at last.
Just as cocky as your mother! No wonder she was my least favorite.
Oh, don't you bring his mother into this! No, you didn't! Erik suddenly grew a dark face, the tendrils in his body glowing in a red, misty aura. Something snapped in Erik's emotions, and the demon lord triggered it.
Don't worry. I'll send you to a place where you'll never have to see her again.
There we go. Erik and the demon lord then simultaneously rushed forward at each other, with the demon lord raising his sword high and Erik moving his tendrils to wrap around his blade. Erik and the demon lord went into a deadlock, with the demon lord trying to cut through the hold his tendrils had in the sword. There we go. Erik, however, formed more free tendrils and shot them up at the demon lord from below, causing his father to release his sword and jump back, now unarmed. Erik smirked and his tendrils snapped the sword in half with insane ease, and tossed the two halves aside to be forgotten. I watched in anxiousness, hoping this battle would end soon. It was 2 against 1. The demon lord wasn't going to win. I however kept my distance to make sure that he wouldn't attack me instead. I had no energy to fight. Taking in what Erik had done to his weapon, the demon lord snarled.
I can feed you even without my sword. Remember who raised you, boy.
You didn't do any raising from what I remember. Excuse me. Erik let out a large bark of laughs as his tendrils sharpened his spikes once again.
I'm afraid you're mistaken. My mother raised me. You were too busy doting on your favorite son to care about me or the others.
That's why Erik became such a slut. The demon lord growled, his fist becoming engulfed in red bolts of lightning.
I created you! You owe your very existence to me.
I really don't have a comeback for that, but I'm sure Erik does.
I owe you nothing!
That works. The demon lord only laughed before suddenly gasping from pain. I'd barely seen what had happened, but as I stared at the demon lord, I gasped at the sight. Protruding from the demon lord's chest were a spray of red spikes dripping with his blood. I could barely keep staring as he turned and looked at us in shock. Butcher that sentence. I looked over to Erik to see him pointing to the wall behind the demon lord, where the collection of spikes jutted through a black void into the demon lord's back, eventually skewering him.
You never paid attention. You were blinded by pride, and that will be your downfall.
I'm loving this battle scene more than any other ones. I'm loving it so much.
No! He's mine!
Diana! Come on! Quickly, Erik pulled back his tendrils from his father. That was a weird sentence I never thought I'd read. Causing the demon lord to fall forward from the pain and momentum. Diana, however, swooped at the demon lord and rammed her saber into his chest, and a gargled gasp escaping his throat. There we go. Without hesitating, Diana pulled her sword and stabbed him once again, driving her blade all the way through him to the hilt and snarling to his face.
Those were for my parents.
A third stab directly through the heart.
For my sister!
Diana finally pulled her sword out and rammed the pummel into the side of his head, pushing him down to the ground in a lifeless thud. He was dead by now, eyes glazed over in death, cold's breathless embrace. Ah, the sweet embrace of death. However, Diana didn't care. Diana quickly straddled his waist. Don't stop the sentence there, that sounds bad! Bringing up her saber and using her magic to shorten the dagger in her hand above her head.
And for every life you took from this world!
Maddened, Diana began to violently slam pepper stabs into the Demon Lord's chest. Erik rushed over and wrapped his... Okay, stop! And wrapped his arms around me, covering me from the sight. But he wasn't able to block the sounds of Diana's sobbed-filled screams with each stab. I became a bit frightened at Diana and how she was releasing her anger. However, it was entirely justified. He had taken everything from her and had caused worldwide chaos. It was only natural to demand revenge even after death. This was her last stand with him, as she had dominated his very corpse with her blade, uncaring of the lost spirit no longer within it. It went on for far too long, to the point where Erik and I had to let me go when I walked forward, pulling Diana off of him. Wow. She began to flail, dropping her knife and letting it fade as it hit the ground into nothing.
No! Let go!
Dude, he is literally mincemeat right now. He's gone. He's Jello. He's gone.
Diana!
Erik pulled Diana to her feet and gripped her shoulders, shaking her and glaring into her eyes.
Enough!
Diana's eyes were bloodshot, desperate to keep striking the dead body, but filled with emotion and broken inhibition. As she finally took in Erik's words, she shut her eyes and dropped to her knees, releasing a wave of sobs and cries. Is it okay to summon Sedo right now? I walked over to Erik's side, pitying Diana. She must have seen so much death. This was her solace and chance to let go, to know her family was gone because of him. Sorry, wrenched pain in my heart, but I knew that it was finally over. They were avenged, and so were the many people who died under his hand. The Demon Lord was dead at last. I felt a weight lift off of my heart and spirit proving to me that the curse was broken, and that the chain that bound me to the abyssal plains was gone. I could go home. I hugged Erik's arm to me, finally letting out a sigh as I was holding in relief of the situation. Erik smiled and kissed my head.
It's over now.
Yeah, we can go home now. A wave of joy rushed through my body. Happy to know that I was free to go home, I began to become overjoyed with the idea of returning, walking across the aisle and marrying Erik before returning to my normal life. Life in the demon world was an adventure, but it was time to finish this and leave. I smiled at Erik before kneeling down and placing a hand on Diana's shoulder as she cried, causing her to look up at me. I could only smile at her, to try to relieve some of the heartache and burden she was releasing. It's over, Diana, we won. A small breath of silence ran through the air before Diana wiped the tears from her eyes and nodded, still shaken from the experience.
It's over.
I nodded and gently helped Diana stand before taking Erik's hand and walking towards the entrance of the hall. Diana, however, turned back to look at the Demon Lord's body, stopping us in our tracks.
Was this all worth it? I lost my family because of him. There was so much bloodshed.
Diana tightened a fist at her side, gritting her teeth and shutting her eyes.
I didn't get to say goodbye to my family. My sister.
I felt another wave of empathy run through my body at her words. She wasn't really alone, though. She had Sedo. He was truly everything she had left in the world, and he was more than willing to walk through it with her. It was alright, so I reached out to take her shoulder. Diana looked over, seeing the comfort in my eyes despite her broken gaze. Before I could speak, however, a familiar purple light glowed from the Demon Lord's body, catching our eyes and causing us all to look over in shock. What was happening? What the? Before our eyes, a faint purple orb slowly appeared and bobbed up and down in the air, looking at us. The orb that had haunted me was expelled from me, floated over the dead body from the Demon Lord, as if it had been there the entire time. You. The orb moved in a circle about the Demon Lord's body, letting the faint trace trail behind it temporarily draw a circle in the air as it returned to its spot. It released a pulse of light. The light slowly drifted towards Diana, impacting her chest and making her glow a bit before the light faded away. Confused, Diana stared at the spirit, trying to figure out what it had done to her. Was it an attack? Slowly, Diana became wide-eyed at the familiarity. There we go. With a shaky hand, Diana reached out towards the orb, lost emotion in her eyes as she kept her sights on the spirit.
Orel.
I stared at Diana in shock. It had a name? How did Diana know the spirit at all? It was like she was grasping at straws. How could Diana have known who it was? The orb floated forward, stopping in front of the Demon Lord's corpse as Diana took a step towards it.
Hi, Azair.
I was wrong. Diana hit the nail on the head with its name, and it seemed to be acquainted with it. Diana took a couple more steps forward before dropping to her knees in the middle of the hall. I watched as tears began to stream down her face and her body began to quake. The orb slowly floated over to Diana and hovered just within arm's reach of her. Diana's hands shakily lifted up past her chest and over her mouth.
Orel.
It's okay. It's okay, big sister.
Dun dun dun. Big sister? Diana suddenly let out a tearful gasp before reaching forward and taking the orb into her arms. Somehow pulling the orb into her tight embrace, the orb seemed to shimmer in the hug it was in, but didn't seem to react in any other way. Diana, however, became a weeping mess, crying and shaking while holding Orel close.
Orel!
I couldn't believe it. The spirit was Orel, Diana's sister? What kind of coincidence was that? How did Diana not know herself? How did Orel not tell me? It obviously knew Diana just from how they were embracing. Still, the sight of Diana in mournful tears gripped my heart. Diana lost her sister and suddenly was able to speak to her once more, even after Orel's death. It was as if the fate wanted to apologize for taking her family away. I almost became a crying mess myself. It was a very tearful reunion after a dramatic battle. I didn't know how to feel in the situation we were in. Diana didn't seem to care. She continued to cry and hold Orel. Eric wrapped an arm around me, comforting me as I wiped my eyes and tried to avoid weeping. Diana, however, didn't seem to care about the tears running down her face.
This is the first time I've heard you cry, sister.
I'm sorry. I tried to save you. But
It's okay. The Demon Lord did this to me.
It all suddenly made sense. Orel was an unborn baby, so it wouldn't have known its name. The Demon Lord was the one who killed her, so the puzzle pieces were connecting perfectly. Orel then phased out of Diana's hand, making the demon gasp and look up at the orb. Orel, however, floated in place in front of Diana as she continued to speak.
The Demon Lord made me find the human.
What? Orel was working for the Demon Lord? She helped the imps bring me to the Demon Lord? World?
You were in the human all along? Why not just tell me? Why?
He made me. But now I have nowhere to go.
Orel.
Something in the air didn't seem right. Something about Orel became off, and I couldn't place my finger on it. The more I stared, the more concerned I became, and the heavier the nervousness in my gut grew.
Azair, I love you so much. But...
Oh dear, that was a menacing but. The air seemed to freeze as the room became still, and Orel floated back towards the body of the demon. No! Don't do that. Please, God, don't. As Orel stopped, she began to glow dark red and purple color.
I can't forgive you.
Oh, for what? For what? You terrible son of an orb. I'm getting too old for this shit. All at once, the orb flashed and vanished into thin air. Only a misty gas presented its aftermath.
Orel!
We looked around, trying to pin down where she had gone, as the Demon Lord's hand suddenly lifted up and... Woohoo! Thought we killed you. Up and slammed to the ground, we shot our heads back at his corpse, seeing it begin to animate. Well, fuck a duck, am I right? The Demon Lord slammed his other hand to the ground and began to push himself up, curling his shoulders over and using whatever strength he had, and getting onto his knees and eventually his feet. What? Is Diana now gonna have to fight her own dead sister? That's great. That's some real twisted shit you're pulling. The Demon Lord's body stood up and steadied itself into the ground and on its 2 feet, heavy and void of life. What was happening? How could this be? As the Demon Lord's head lifted to look up at Diana, I gasped. His eyes were glossed over in dark purple, almost black color. Blood continued to pour from the wounds of his body, but the body continued to move as if it had a small breath of life. His mouth would drop and begin to mold itself into forming words, dead and echoey with Orel's voice seeping through.
You let him kill me. You let him kill Mother and Father.
How dare you? How dare you?
Orel!
Who do you think you are, you little piece of orb?
You let let the human live and let us die. I can never forgive you.
How dare you? The voice of the Demon Lord and Orel seemed to fuse into a music, into dissonant harmony as the body slowly began to march towards an unmoving Diana. My mind screamed for her to move and run, but Diana didn't seem to be immobile at the upcoming danger. Diana, move! She remained in place, shocked and frozen at what her sister had said and done. I could barely make out her hair and her body shuddering in natural fear, but she wouldn't move at all. I don't want Diana to die. That's the last thing I want right now. It's the last thing I want. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna grab Diana. There was no way I was gonna let Orel hurt her, sister or not. I rushed forward and grabbed Diana by the horns. Come here, girl! Pulling. Can you just imagine? Come on, let's go! Pulling her back as fast as I could. Deal with it. Diana gripped on my hands, digging her nails into my skin, but I didn't care. I needed to bring her away from the incoming enemy. As I dragged her back, Orel watched unamused by my intrusion. I could only glare back despite Diana flailing in my hands. She wouldn't take her away. I wouldn't let her. I finally released Diana's horns and stepped forward, placing myself between the two sisters. I won't let you hurt her! Orel loomed towards us, filling me with dread. The stench of the Demon Lord's corpse became unbearable, despite not being dead long. I still had no energy to fight, the realization making me step back from the undead demon.
You hurt me! Hurt me! Now I'll hurt you!
Orel picked up the Demon Lord's broken blade parts and slammed them together, fusing them back into one sword with her energy. Whew. How was that possible? She was a spirit! Orel then started to charge at us, raising the sword barely over Erik's and my head. I'm back, bitches! I prepared to defend, but was blocked by the back of Erik's head, in a wave of ethereal tendrils. All at once, tendrils grabbed hold of the sword and forced it away. I'm suddenly getting hiccups, and it's not good, because I have to read. Around Erik's body was a deep aura of red and purple mist swirling in the air and wrapping around his summoned tendrils. As he stepped forward, Orel surprisingly stepped back.
Won't let you hurt the one I love.
With a snarl, Orel lunged at Erik, trying to wrap her arms around him, but was pushed away by Erik's tendrils. Orel and Erik charged at one another, Orel gripping to Erik's outstretched tendrils. Can we just say tentacles? And began to push at each other. The wounds on the Demon Lord's body began to open and bleed further, causing it to quake and as it pushed against Erik's strength.
You won't last long in that body. Give up.
Shut up! Shut up, shut up, shut up!
With her screams, Orel knocked away the tendrils before her and managed to get close to Erik, but not without impaling herself on traps Erik placed around him, which caused spikes to shoot up and into the rotten body of the Demon Lord. Disgusted at the sight and smell, Erik used his tendrils to shove Orel off of him and towards the opposite end of the room, where Orel slid and rolled against the marble, painting it red and black with blood. Quickly, Orel jumped up and began to howl and scream, her cries filling the room, making it quake violently. Ugh, jeez. Ugh. I held my head, trying to block out the sound of her cries, but her cries began to fill my head with distant pain. Erik, in defiance, sprayed a volley of spikes at her, all landed on target. The spikes remained in the corpse, but Orel continued to move, desperate to fight back with everything she had. What was wrong with her? How was she able to keep going? Were spirits really that powerful? I quickly grabbed Diana, pulling her up to her feet, and ran to the corner of the room, needing to be in the room still to help Erik, but desperate to keep Orel away from Diana.
Orel!
Diana began to fail and fight back, but I dug my nails into Diana's sides, forcing her back with gritted teeth. Diana, move! As Diana's back hit the corner of the room, I heard Erik release a grunt of pain, causing me to look over my shoulder to see what had happened. Erik, having knocked away a slash of Orel's sword, unfortunately couldn't block a fist from sending Erik flying at the wall. You okay there, baby? Erik's body slammed into stone and he fell to the ground, gasping for air and curled over himself from the pain. Erik! Please don't die! I instantly rushed over and knelt at Erik's side, wrapping an arm over him as he slowly began to rise back up.
I'm fine, princess.
You don't sound fine! I shook my head and looked to Orel, seeing her slowly make her way towards us. Go away, fruit fly. I was certain that the body she was using was drained of any blood, yet she would manage to keep it moving with her own energy. This was morbidly disgusting to see, but I was forced to bear witness as it came closer to where we were. What are we going to do? Erik and I looked to each other, desperate to find an answer in each other's eyes. However, one finally appeared in my mind. According to Diana, when I had Orel within me, I was overflowing with energy. I was still standing. If I was still standing, then I still had some left. There wasn't enough for me to fight, but there was enough to give Erik to possibly help him. I suddenly grabbed Erik's face and kissed him. Willing my energy to his body, Erik, despite naturally accepting it, stared wide-eyed at me in surprise. Wait, say that again. That was cute. I didn't want to pass out, so I pulled away when I began to feel lightheaded. I hoped and prayed that it was enough energy to end the fight, so I smiled at Erik and nodding to him. Finish this so we can go home. I quickly collapsed onto my hands, panting for air. The room began to spin, but I had to shake it off. I had to see this through. 1 second. That was nice. Erik gazed at me before nodding and turning to Orel, who was halfway across the room now. Slowly, Erik rose to his feet and summoned his mob of tendrils, each dancing and waving like angry snakes in the air.
My way for long enough, spirit.
Sexually, you damn cock block! Walking forward, Erik lashed out his tendrils at Orel, whipping and snapping at the body she was possessing and forcing it back. Despite her attempts to block and force him away, every so often, a spike would fly from Erik's ring of tendrils, piercing into Orel's like skewer. Piercing into Orel like a skewer. As Erik passed the Demon Lord's sword, he reached down and picked it up surprisingly with ease. I could barely stand, gripping onto the wall as I watched Erik lift the sword to his side.
You possessed my wife, brought her to this world, and dared to attack her, all because of what my father did to you. Pitiful.
Orel let out a threatening and frightening shout, lurching forward to try and tackle Erik, but was pushed away by the Demon Lord's blade and Erik's tendrils, causing her to knock into and collapse on the nearby pillars. Goodness. Orel slowly rose, pushing the debris off of her. Before glaring hard at Erik, Erik glared back in kind before raising his father's blade up and to his side, preparing to charge forward with it to plunge into her.
I'll send you to purgatory and free you from your suffering.
With one last cry, Erik ran and thrust the Demon Lord's sword forward into Orel, causing her to cry out. The room began to vibrate and quake, causing me to cover my head. However, Erik released the hilt of the sword and rushed back to me. A bright light filled the room, blinding Erik and I. Erik gripped onto me, trying to cover my body with his, but the white color of the flash invaded my vision. Silence slowly consumed the air as my world became blanket like a canvas. You little shit. I looked up at last to see the spirit orb bobbing up and down in the air.
You saved me! Thank you! You freed me at last!
Orel? The orb spun around itself, releasing a small giggle. It seemed overjoyed despite what had just happened earlier. Had Orel been under some sort of corruption?
I can finally go home!
Orel.
Oh, hi. I turned my head to see Diana slowly walking forward to be by my side, staring at the orb in both sadness and relief. Orel floated over to hover in front of Diana, and a soft light line of sadness in her own voice.
I'm sorry, big sister,
It's alright. You're free now.
Diana wrapped an arm around Orel, laying her cheek softly on the orb as it flickered in a warm glow. The air was calm, and love between Diana and Orel seemed to hum with the orb's light. However, Diana was still alive, and I could tell that this was their final goodbye to the sister she never got to meet. It was heartwarming as well as bittersweet, but Diana deserved proper closure with her sister. She grew to love.
Tell Mother and Father that I'm alright, okay?
I will.
Oh my god. Don't tell me! Diana and I suddenly looked into the light around us. Hearing a man's voice, Orel spun around in a circle, letting out a happy gasp.
Father?
Oh my god, that's her father?
Father!
Can I hear his voice again? That was so sad. Orel quickly left Diana's arms and began to fly into the bright light, but stopped and spoke once more.
Take care of the world, okay? You're everyone's mother now, sister.
Diana grinned and chuckled a bit, stray tears falling down the sides of her face.
I'll do my best.
Bye-bye, human!
Bye-bye! Bye! I couldn't help waving as the orb finally faded away into the light. You weren't there to see that, but it was a beautiful moment, Erik. As word returned to me to the Great Hall, I found myself still wrapped in Erik's arms. I looked up to see him staring down at me in worry like I had passed out. Erik?
Love, are you all right?
I nodded. I was right now. The battle was over. I was free to return home. Great sacrifices were made, but it was all over now. I was going home. Diana, who had been sitting in the corner of the room, braced her knees to her chest, taking in what had happened as well. I was positive that she was truly there with me to say goodbye to Orel, so she had to recuperate.
Sarah.
Hey, baby. I'll give her a hug. Sarah, give her a hug. She needs us so badly. At her voice, a soft flash of light. Sorry, a soft flash of light post in front of in front of her before revealing Seto out of breath. Good God.
My lady!
We hug each other. Despite being out of breath, Seto quickly dropped to his knees and wrapped his arms around Diana. Thank you, Seto, for giving her a hug. She needs it so badly.
I was on my way to tell you. We've won! We forced the enemy to dissolve and surrender and...
Shut up.
Shut up and kiss me. Seto flinched before Diana wrapped her arms around his chest and pulled him tightly against her. Oh, Julie.
Just hold me.
Oh, okay, you're breaking my heart. Thank you. Seto stared down at Diana before nodding and embracing her, resting his head against her comfortingly. I could barely hear soft sobbing from her, but I was glad to know that Seto was there for her. I looked up at Erik, smiled before kissing him, relishing in the victory of the rebellion and the release of my curse. I was finally going home. It was over. The war was finally over. As the smoke cleared, we were victorious. The soldiers left standing were the ones to cheer in victory. The sky became littered with howls and cries of the joyful and happy. The tyranny of the Demon Lord had ended. But what now? Home was now possible. We could go back to the human world, and we could live our lives as we wanted. It was something I desperately wanted, and yet my body was not ready to make the journey just yet. We had to celebrate the success of the war, after all. As the full moon rose over Lilith Castle, towards the dawn, the entirety of the demon world celebrated with endless drinks and food, laughter and dancing. It was so unreal, but the courtyard that I could see was filled with smiles and happy faces. We had stayed for one more night, traveling back to Lilith Castle to rest and return home as healthy as we could be. After all, we had just gone through a war. One more night in the demon world wasn't going to hurt us. While the majority of the rebellion danced in the courtyard, I remained with the incubi and the rebel leaders, who were all in the royal hall having their own celebration. Drinks were shared and battle stories were exchanged, making some laugh and others roll their eyes. I found myself intrigued at the stories Sergeant told about the front line. As I looked to Diana, however, she simply kept quiet with a small smile on her face. She looked at the incubi and the rebel leaders in silence before walking away from the little party we had. As if she knew I was staring at her, Diana looked over at me and slightly gestured with her head to follow her. I followed, curious as to where she was going, and made sure to remain quiet as I separated from the rest of the group and followed her out of the room into the hall. The entire journey, Diana didn't speak a word. Even Seto didn't follow her, most likely being told that she wanted to speak with me alone. Diana led me through the castle, up a couple sets of stairs, into what looked like a royal bedroom with a balcony. Was this a guest room? It was untouched, and I could smell the very faint scent of dust. Why did she bring me here? Diana stepped into the room, using her magic to ignite the candelabra, I don't know what the fuck those are, and air out of the room by opening the balcony window before I could ask. However, Diana finally spoke up.
I have to thank you, dear.
For what?
For aiding us in this war. We've been fighting the Demon Lord for so long. We thought the war would never end. As terrible as the circumstance was, if you hadn't been summoned here, we probably would have still been fighting now.
Diana walked to the balcony and leaned against the railing, staring into the dark night sky. The light from the room illuminated her form as she gazed at the stars. Despite the situation around us, the air seemed calm with the faint echo of the celebrations whispering through the night. I walked over, stood beside her, leaning against the balcony, and looked at Diana as she smiled and let out a chuckle.
To be very honest, I didn't expect to ever see you again. After I took your energy that night, I vowed to never deal with humans again. No clairvoyance could have told me about you coming into play in this war.
I wasn't exactly counting on coming here. Diana stared wide-eyed at me, a small form of blush on her cheeks. It was true! I was able to see another side of her that wasn't cruel or ruthless towards me. I guess it was the real her, and I was happy to find out that she wasn't a terrible person after all. When you were in the human world, I never would imagine you to be a nice person. You did everything you could to mess with me and try to coerce the boys to return. Since I came, I know who you really are. You have a good heart, Diana. I'm glad to know that now. Diana stared for a while before smiling softly, her eyes slightly glossing over in a sense of appreciation. She almost looked like a little girl for a half second, her face so full of innocence.
And you do as well, my friend.
Diana turned her body to me and held her hand out towards me. I smiled back and took her hand, gently shaking it before pulling her to me, surprising her. I wanted to hug her, so I did. I wrapped my arms around her body and felt her very slowly relaxed into my embrace, with a small breath of what I assumed to be a purr. Diana wrapped her arms around me and hugged me back. Never would I have imagined embracing Diana and seeing her not as an enemy, but as a friend. It was mind-boggling, but I was glad to know the real Diana now. Diana and I pulled away from each other and smiled before she stepped back into her original spot.
I had almost forgotten.
I tilted my head at her. What was she talking about? Diana lifted one of her hands towards the sky and waved her hand through the air, making a soft purple mist glow around her fingers. Within seconds, the mist morphed and formed itself into a lavender-colored lily, resting peacefully between Diana's fingers. She brought it down and presented it to me with a kind gaze.
A gift, my dear.
A gift? I slowly took the flower out of Diana's hand and inspected it visually. Sorry, damn hiccups. It was light, but I could feel a soft glow of magic emanating from the stem and the petals. The bloom reminded me of the human world lily, but something about it seemed otherworldly.
A flower known only to demons of Lilith. We call it the flower of Lilith, because these flowers were said to have been created when Lilith first appeared in the abyssal plains.
I stared at Diana, not understanding why she was giving me such a gift. She took it at my confusion and leaned against the railing, continuing her explanation.
It is also a flower we succubi use when we marry.
Use? What do you mean? Diana chuckled again before she gently took the flower from my hand and tucked it behind my ear. As it settled against my ear, I felt a mist circle my head and form into a flower crown of lavender lilies. The way Diana looked at me made me feel like I was in my bridal wear already.
A human you may be, but Lilith would have been proud to see you marrying one of her own. These flowers represent her blessing, and may only crown the worthy.
I felt a blush run across my cheeks. This was a blessing? I slowly reached up and ran her fingers along the flower crown, adorning my head, feeling the soft petals against my fingertips. They were almost pulsing with energy. I felt both flattered and honored that a simple flower felt that I was worthy enough to crown my head. Diana let out a sigh and looked to the sky. You're just making me do the same. One would have expected the sky to be full of smoke or the smell of war as aftermath, but the sky was clear and fresh air drifted through my nose as I inhaled. It was indeed another world, and tonight was my last night in it.
Well, you did it! Congratulations! You've made it to the end of your story. I have to say, I am very surprised at how it turned out.
Why? I'm not. Sorry, I've just been through it so many times. Oh dear God, no.
Nevertheless,
self-voicing
no,
disabled.
Okay, thank you.
Things worked out in the end, whether it was for the better or otherwise. I mean, who would have thought that Diana's own sister was the one that brought you to the demon world? It's a small universe, isn't it?
Hey.
However, your love came through in the end. With your strength, Erik was finally able to defeat Orel and send her to the afterlife, where she belonged. Anyways, you've been through a lot, so why don't we skip to...
Skip to what?
Huh? You want to know what happened after the war?
Just a tad.
Well, I mean, I guess I could tell you. After the war was finished, the entire rebellion celebrated. Word spread far and wide about the rebellion's success, and soon every kingdom in the abyssal plains had become united with the new authority. You would think demons would be more hostile towards each other, being demons and all, but the threat of the Demon Lord was what brought the entire world together. The entire world united under one banner, the Lilith Crest. Diana became the sovereign of the entire plane, accepted and loved by practically everyone because of her devotion to the world and her bravery in the war. Sero, as devoted as ever, remained by her side as her loyal bodyguard.
Fucking marry each other! Sorry.
Diana became one of the most beloved rulers in all of Demon World history. Her natural heart of gold led her to lead the world to a prosperous future, one filled with peace and happiness. The other rebel leaders supported her, eventually changing the caste system of the world and slowly working their way towards a plane as equal and peaceful as it could be. Diana had her suspicions, of course, as any monarch would, but if they had any sort of bad thoughts about her before, they certainly didn't during the recreation of the world. And I believe that is everything that happened after, well, except for your story anyway. Erik and you returned home, and since everything was taken care of before he found you, you got ready for the actual wedding. Huh? How do I know? Well, I have my ways. Maybe you should check it out.
She says as her arms point to like a slide. Why don't you check it out? Kind of like a infomercial. Now that I was unhindered by a spirit I couldn't control, I was able to finally move on and say yes to Erik with every ounce of my heart. Fuck reading. In our wedding vows, my entire being became light as I watched his expression melt into endless joy at my vows to him. Our kiss was magical as a fairy tale, prince and princess kissing, God, glowing in a positive and hopeful energy as the people who watched cheered in congratulations. I could go on and on about the wedding and the honeymoon, but honestly, after the war, I was more concerned about living my life afterwards. Our lives escalated to new heights after we officially became husband and wife. Erik stared at a chain of suit shops. Stared? Yeah, he stared at them like, whoa, look at them chain of suit shops. I can't talk anymore, honestly. Who wants to do it for me? You want to read for me?
Self-voicing enabled.
No.
Self-voicing disabled.
Erik started a chain of suit shops, dear God, and had become a very powerful man in the fashion business industry. Not surprised. It was rather hilarious to see him square up James, every fitting he needed with a smirk of equal standing to his one up-tier brother. As for me, I began to go through my own success in life, dedicating myself to becoming exactly what I wanted to do. After all, my husband had made a name for himself in the fashion world. If I had to put the same amount of work as I did in the demon world, then I was going to be okay. However, there was never a day that went by that I didn't think about what was happening in the Abyssal Plains. It was a heavy chapter in my life, one that tested the love between me and Erik. To think that I was under the influence of a child who needed to be set free still astounded me to no end. For a moment, I myself almost believed that I was pregnant instead. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. Damn it. Damn it. Still, I was confident that we would get through it and stay together no matter what came our way. Demon, devil, spirit, didn't matter to us. We were unstoppable together. The faint memory of my own power slightly tingled through me every time I grew confident, eagerly reminding me that I had strength of my own. I would never let anyone come between me and Erik ever again. The thoughts of it all echoed in my mind as I sat in bed, looking up at the ceiling with a wide smile on my face. Despite the dangers being real, the war was an adventure fun to look back upon in my memories. Bleh. I took in a breath and let out a sigh, leaning back against the bedpost and closing my eyes. I was at peace and everything was alright.
Princess?
Hello, gosh. It's, blah. What's up? Sorry, but what's up? Alright, I'm done. I opened my eyes at the sound of my pet name, looking up to see Erik at the door smiling at me and holding a plate of food. Unlike the demon world, this world had the makings of pastries, eggs, bacon, sausage, other delicious concoctions made for the early morning. As I took in the sight of all my favorite foods on the plate in Erik's hands, I licked my lips and let out a happy hum. Hey, that looks delicious.
And it's all for you.
Yeah. I was squealing internally, feeling a bit spoiled at the treatment he was giving me. As he walked over and sat on the edge of the bed, Erik handed me the plate and watched as I accepted it and took a bite of what he offered, groaning at the amazing taste. With a smile, I took some of it onto a fork that was on the plate and offered it to Erik, seeing him stare at me in slight surprise before smiling and taking the bite, licking his lips after. Thank you, Erik. You spoiled me.
Anything for you, my sweet princess.
I giggled at the name, nuzzling Erik's hand as it came to caress as he came to caress my cheek lovingly. His hands were always so soft and warm, perfect to hold and make me feel loved and safe. I opened an eye to look up at him cutely, seeing him blush with a smile on his own.
I would happily do anything for you.
My. Anything?
Anything. Just name it.
I cupped his hands and gently placed a kiss over his palm, feeling him stare in surprise at the gesture. I could almost hear the blush? How do you hear a blush? On his face, intensifying before I even looked back up at him to confirm it. He was red as an apple. Perfect. I giggled again and nuzzled his hand, almost laying my head on it. Be with me forever? It took a small, cute moment for Erik to regain his composure before brushing a strand of hair behind my ear.
Forever. And always.
Good. Hold me every day and every night?
As close as I can hold you to me.
Sweet waves of joy rushed through me every answer he gave, confirming his devotion and love for me. I was so lucky to have him as my own, and I could tell that he believed himself to be the lucky one. In honesty, we were both the lucky ones, perfectly blending together and devoting ourselves to each other without second thoughts. We proved it in the demon world, and we will prove it for the rest of our lives. I gently pulled Erik towards me, moving the plate between us to the nightstand, smiling as he came close before capturing his lips with mine. In a loving kiss. He was definitely surprised, but it wasn't long before he began to kiss back just as passionately. The gentle taste of roses, you being a rose boy, and rain always made me feel at peace. What? And I always managed to find out on Erik's lips, but what? He was my perfect prince, and I was his loving princess. Our mansion was a castle, and the human world was our kingdom to explore. What story could have been better? As we gently pulled away, we gazed into each other's eyes, becoming lost in them. All I could see in his purple irises were waves of love and care, filling my heart with everlasting peace. I began to wonder what he saw in my eyes. Whatever it was, he became entranced, and he could do nothing but wrap his free arm around me, pulling me to him lovingly.
Everything in my life belongs to you. My heart, my body, my soul, everything. I swear to give you everything I am, and love you until the end of time. Nothing will tear me away from you.
Erik, what soft words. Those words were so touching. With a tender kiss on my forehead, Erik's expression softened to a gaze of deep love.
I love you, princess. I love you so much.
Oh, it feels... I believed every word. I let his words embed themselves into my heart, and I would remember them forever. As Erik kissed me again, locking his lips with mine, he sealed those words. I would love him and continue to hold him closer for the rest of my life. Nothing would be able to tear me away from him any longer. And that was my perfect happily ever after. Aww. Sorry, I'm rubbing the top of my microphone. There we go. Yay.
Don't make me wait for you. I'll show you what to do. There's a place beyond where we can be free. Let's fly, my love. We'll reach the sky above. We'll soar like eagles through the breeze. With you, I'll fly so high with ease. Don't make me wait for you. I'll show you what to do. There's a place beyond where we can be free. Just you and me.
I swear to God, that question mark at the end is giving you all ideas that there's gonna be a third one. And it's also giving me ideas that there's gonna be a third one, which is making me mentally want to kill myself because I just want to move on. But anyway, we're done. Wait, are there bloopers yet? Or do I have to unlock that or some shit? I don't even know.
Hi, how can I? Oh
Dear God.
my God!
Oh my God.
Hi, hello, good to see you, human. How you got in here, I will never know. But hey, fuck it, let's just say hi. Hi, hello. I am Michaela, and I'm the current substitute librarian here at Yggdrasil. How can I help you?
What?
Wait, what? You want to what? You want to look in the...
What?
You're serious?
What?
I mean, I guess I could show you?
What?
I mean, what do you want to see?
What?
You want to see what happened to them?
What?
Oh, no. I can't show you that.
What?
I mean, I'm technically not the keeper here. I'm just filling in for a friend. She'd be mega pissed if I showed you what happened to them.
What?
I mean, of course, if you had the angel's password, I can tell you. But I doubt you have it.
No, I don't. I don't have it yet. I didn't mean... Oh, I pushed bonus instead of extras. Whoops! Well, that was a teaser for what's gonna come after. Fuck, bloopers. No bloopers, goddammit. I'm sorry about that. I'm so sorry I accidentally clicked on that. Wow, where was my brain? Damn, I was so lost and confused. Don't worry, the angels, that part, whatever that is, we will do that when we finish everything. I promise. I pinky swear that'll be done. But anyway, another bay captured. Woo! I'm not hearing you guys go woo. Come on, woo! Wow! That's better. Louder though. Wow! All right. Yeah. Next is James, because Diana's last, and the only boy we have next is James. Goodness. Oh, my speech is going just well tonight. Anyway, next is James, and then last is Diana. So I hope you all looking forward to that. We are so close to finishing the game. High five! Awesome. I'll see you guys in the next route. Bye-bye!